might be the greatest catch I've ever seen in my life.
Okay, this should be the most exciting announcement that we ever make on this channel. And that is we are going to be officially having an Austin, Texas flock meetup at some point mid-June. Now, we don't have the official date set. I mean, my initial thoughts are just going through and thinking that we are probably going to be doing some kind of outdoor bar, somewhere we can get food, somewhere we can all just hang out. And because the announcement for this is only coming a few weeks before the date is most likely going to be posted, I'd imagine this isn't going to be a super big meetup. I'd imagine it's only probably going to be 10, 15 people at the very most. But nonetheless, it should be very fun. Maybe I'll go through and make a vlog of it if that's something y'all would like to do. And also, whenever I get to Tampa, y'all know that I am moving from Austin, Texas to Tampa, Florida at the end of June, beginning of July, sometime in that area. But once we get there, maybe we can do a Florida meetup at the same time. So all of that is going to be coordinated over there on Patreon. Not going to be putting it out on my Twitter, not going to be putting it out on my Instagram or anything. So please, if you're interested, if you have any suggestions on where you would like the meetup to happen, on what dates would work best for you, because like I said, I mean, it's probably going to be a very small thing. So if you reach out to me and go, hey, Mason, I would really like to come. I can't come on the 14th, but could we do the 13th? And I have a decent amount of people telling me what day works best for them. Then I can go through, make the official announcement. That way I can try to kind of just cooperate with everyone. But that's it. Very excited to make that announcement. And also go down there, drop a like, leave a comment, subscribe to the channel. Y'all know how much that helps us out. And what we are going to be doing in this video is we are going to be going through some players that have the hype. We are going to be going through some players that specifically for Dynasty Fantasy Football, I mean, they have had a ton of discussion circulating them over the past season. And I think we should be taking a step back. I think we should be going, you know what? We are talking 2021 production. We are talking 2021 redraft fantasy football here. So maybe the hype that these players have for their long-term dynasty outlooks doesn't necessarily match up with what you should be expecting for 2021 production. And these are possibly players that are going to be overvalued in those redraft formats because of that. Now let's dive into it. Let's bring up Chase Claypool as our first wide receiver we are going to be talking about. And here with Claypool, I mean, there was something in the range of outcomes that could have happened for Chase Claypool to be a wide receiver one in fantasy. And what would have had to happen is you would have had to see Juju Smith-Schuster just leave Pittsburgh. You would have had to see him go to New York. You would have had to see him go to LA, just anywhere besides Pittsburgh. But no, Juju stays. And yes, I understand they play two entirely different positions where Claypool's going to be playing on the outside. Juju Smith-Schuster is going to be lining up in the slot. But nonetheless, because Juju's there, you should expect that to take a hit to Chase Claypool's overall expectation with his target share in the offense. And then throw on the fact that not only do they keep Juju Smith-Schuster, but they go out of their way to add some more players to this offense that should be getting touches. They add a player like Najee Harris. They add a player like Pat Freiermuth. And I understand neither one of those guys are going to be seeing a significant amount of receptions. But in the case of Najee Harris, I actually think that this is sneaky bad for Chase Claypool. In maybe you see the Pittsburgh Steelers try to skew a little bit more run heavy than if they did not have that starting running back. I mean, think about what the pass to run ratio would have been if they were actually starting Benny Snell at running back compared to Najee Harris. So with Harris coming in, not only are you going to be expecting them to possibly run the ball a little bit more, but to go along with that, we know that Chase Claypool got a ton of his production actually at the goal line his rookie season in 2020. Surprisingly, they were trying to do anything that they could to make sure that Chase Claypool was coming away with touchdowns because he is that bigger bodied guy. And I guess they didn't necessarily trust Benny Snell. And then we know the other running backs in that backfield, a guy like Anthony McFarland, is undersized. So they actually handed the ball off to Chase Claypool. They had a bunch of gimmick plays that they could get him usage at the goal line. And now that Najee Harris is here, I mean, I think it's almost impossible to expect that same type of thing for Chase Claypool. And if we go through and actually look at what happened with Claypool in 2020, I mean, it was not that good of a season. So, of course, I mean, he does have that one blow-up week where he wins people millions of dollars in DFS. But beyond that, I mean, the season on a whole wasn't too impressive. Now, he did finish as the wide receiver 35 in points per game, which is decent for a rookie wide receiver, especially someone that was supposed to be a little bit more raw coming into the NFL. But if you break this down in trying to figure out where that production came from, I mean, so much of that came in that 40-point blow-up week performance where if you look at the season in breaks, I mean, the second half of the year, you actually have Chase Claypool as the wide receiver 42 in points per game. And then if you look at the last month of the season, because we know that a lot of times you want to see those players, especially those rookies, kind of ramping up as the season comes to an end. You want to make sure that they end on a high note, showing some progression and some development in what we may be able to expect the following season. But no, Chase Claypool over the last month was actually wide receiver 79. Now, that is absolutely disgusting, and if you're looking at his ADP for where it is this season, it just simply doesn't add up. He is currently being drafted at pick 68 in those real fantasy football drafts, leagues that actually have money attached to them. And if we go through and we go, okay, are you really willing to spend your 7th round pick on Chase Claypool, a wide receiver where it's hard to project this offense to be one of the most productive offenses in the entire NFL, given the fact that Ben Roethlisberger really looked washed down the stretch if you look at his efficiency based on the passing volume that he had. Also, this is an offense that is not going to be that prolific with the volume compared to where you may project them to be without a Najee Harris. So given the fact that the volume should go down for the offense, you're not expecting the offense to be that efficient with Ben Roethlisberger, and he has significant target competition in both Juju Smith-Schuster and Deontay Johnson. Chase Claypool is a wide receiver that I'm going to be completely avoiding in 2021. I mean, if you're talking dynasty, where maybe they can get in a better quarterback for 2022, maybe Juju Smith-Schuster actually leaves Pittsburgh next season, there Chase Claypool can be an impact player. But for 2021 fantasy football leagues, I'm just going to be avoiding Chase Claypool where I can. Okay, so now let's stick it with the chases. Let's stick it at the wide receiver position, and let's go over to JaMarr Chase. Now, I'll be the first person to say that JaMarr Chase is easily the best wide receiver prospect in the entire draft this year, and JaMarr Chase easily has the best long-term projected outlook, and he eventually should be a stud in the NFL. But I think a lot of people are looking at what happened in 2020 with guys like Justin Jefferson, T. Higgins, CeeDee Lamb as well. These rookies that came in and were highly productive right away, these guys that actually won some people their fantasy football leagues. And I think they're going, okay, that happened in 2020. That should definitely happen in 2021 as well. Let's rank the top wide receiver in this draft class extremely high, where I think we need to be taking a step back on this. I mean, you actually have JaMarr Chase going off the board ahead of Robert Woods, a wide receiver that we are almost all in on for 2021 in a ton of formats, and that just simply doesn't make sense for me. While I agree that the fit in Cincinnati is actually fantastic for JaMarr Chase, not just because he's pairing up with his old college quarterback in Joe Burrow, but more importantly because you should expect the overall passing volume to this offense be very high, as well as the passing efficiency if you see Joe Burrow take that second-year leap. But the worry is with JaMarr Chase, this is a player that did not play football at all in 2020. This is a player that hasn't played football since 2019, and now he's going into a situation where there's already an established wide receiver 1 in T. Higgins, and I am on record saying in a dynasty fantasy football league, if you're talking long-term projected outlook, yes, you want JaMarr Chase easily over T. Higgins. JaMarr Chase profiles to be a much better wide receiver over the next 3 seasons. But no, if we are talking just this season, I think what you're going to see is you're going to see JaMarr Chase just take a little bit of time to get going. I think you're actually going to have T. Higgins as the wide receiver in that offense that is going to be commanding the most targets, especially once you get in the red zone, given the fact that T. Higgins is that bigger bodied wide receiver. So because he's already being drafted in the 4th round in JaMarr Chase, I think that's actually a player that I'm going to be avoiding. I'm going to go, you know what? Yes, the 2020 wide receiver class, they came in, they were highly productive rookies right away, but that was one of the best wide receiver classes we have ever seen. So now I think with JaMarr Chase, just because you saw that Justin Jefferson production in 2020, you should not be projecting that same type of thing for JaMarr Chase in 2021. Okay, so now let's go over to another wide receiver that was in that 2020 class. Let's talk about Jerry Jeudy here. Jerry Jeudy going at the end of the 7th round currently. And here with Jeudy, I understand why people are drafting him. I mean, this is a wide receiver with a ton of talent. I mean, this is someone that if you're talking his long-term outlook, or even if you're talking about his current talent right now, and you paired him up with an above-average quarterback, he could be someone that's a league winner. He could be putting up Justin Jefferson type statistics in 2021. But the problem is here, I mean, with Jerry Jeudy, the situation is horrendous. Now, we know that, yes, I mean, there's an outside chance that they go through and they trade for Aaron Rodgers. And if that happens, I mean, just skip forward, skip to the next player, because Jerry Jeudy's going to smash. But with Drew Lock / Teddy Bridgewater under center, I mean, this is going to be a very bad situation for Jerry Jeudy, who was unable to really get anything going his rookie season because the situation is so bad. This is nothing against Jeudy himself. This is more so given the fact that Denver is a horrible spot for these pass-catching wide receivers right now. I mean, he was the wide receiver 73 in points per game, and it's not like he finished a lot stronger than he started. I mean, after his bye week, he actually dropped down to being the wide receiver 78 in points per game. And I know a lot of people are going to want to say, but Mason, Teddy Bridgewater is a significant upgrade over what he had with Drew Lock under center. But what I'm looking at here is I'm looking at a wide receiver that went from being the alpha target on his offense, or at least was supposed to be the alpha target on his offense, some weeks getting out-targeted by Tim Patrick, and now he is going to be dealing with a couple different things. Yes, he himself is going to be taking a step forward with his development, but also you have a ton of players across the offense doing the same exact thing. You have KJ Hamler taking that step forward. KJ Hamler was the youngest wide receiver in the entire draft last year. They took him in the second round. Now, you don't have to be too worried about Hamler. He profiles to be more of a field-stretching wide receiver, but nonetheless, he is worth mentioning. Then you also have a guy like Noah Fant, someone who was incredibly impressive through his first 2 seasons in the NFL, and I know a lot of people are going to say, Mason, that's not true, but I mean, go look at what you should historically expect for these rookie tight ends and those sophomore year tight ends. I mean, historically, they don't produce at all. Noah Fant was actually one of the best rookie and best sophomore tight ends over the past 20 years. So Noah Fant, a fantastic talent. Now going into year 3, this is when you expect those tight end breakouts. And then most importantly, they have Courtland Sutton coming back. So with Jerry Jeudy, he was a wide receiver that you could not start in fantasy last year. I understand he should get better in 2021 with his own talent profile, but so should pretty much every other weapon in this offense. So I think you should expect, with the addition of Courtland Sutton coming back as well, that the target share really doesn't see a jump up for Jerry Jeudy. And unless they get Aaron Rodgers in there to bump up the entire efficiency of the offense, I mean, Jeudy is someone I just have a very hard time seeing turn into a league winner. Despite what his talent is, the situation is the grossest situation in the entire NFL. Okay, so now let's go over real quick and let's talk about a rookie tight end. Let's talk about Kyle Pitts. So y'all know I just got done saying that Noah Fant put up one of the best rookie tight end seasons over the past 20 years and one of the best sophomore tight end seasons over the past 20 years as well. And here with Kyle Pitts, I am the first person to admit that Kyle Pitts is the best tight end prospect to ever come in the NFL. I mean, you're looking at his size, you're looking at his athleticism, and you're looking at his production, and he is literally elite in every single category. To go along with this, he actually is the highest tight end ever drafted in the NFL draft. So everything about his profile screams Hall of Fame talent, Hall of Fame prospect. I mean, it's going to be absurd when Kyle Pitts reaches his peak in the NFL. But what I'm looking at now is I'm looking at a 20-year-old rookie tight end coming in and facing target competition in both Calvin Ridley and Julio Jones from a quarterback that has been very inefficient over the past few years. Now, I understand a lot of people are going to hate me for this take, and I understand a lot of people see the talent that Kyle Pitts is and want him to succeed and produce at a very high level day one in the NFL. But I am telling you right now that over the past 20 years, there has been one tight end in the entire NFL to have over 700 receiving yards in his rookie season. This is not something you can comfortably project for whatever tight end prospect you are looking at. And now, if you look across pretty much every fantasy football website you're going to see, everybody is projecting Kyle Pitts from anywhere between 750 receiving yards and 850. So essentially, Kyle Pitts at this ADP being the 4th tight end off the board in a lot of drafts, he has to, and I repeat, has to put up a top 3 rookie tight end finish over the past 20 years just to not be a disappointment, just not to be a bust. Kyle Pitts has to be one of, if not the best rookie tight end we have seen over the past 20 years. And if you want Kyle Pitts to actually return value on the investment you're making into him, if you actually want to be looking back and go, you know what, I am extremely happy I decided to take Kyle Pitts in the 5th round of my fantasy draft. I'm extremely happy that we decided to take him as the 4th tight end off the board. Kyle Pitts then has to come into this situation and put up the best rookie tight end season that we have seen. Now, historically, that is a very bad bet, and I am the first person to admit that Kyle Pitts is the best tight end prospect to ever come into the NFL. So yes, it's a little bit hard to go through and compare him to these prior rookie tight ends because Kyle Pitts is better than them. But Pitts is someone, I promise you, I'm going to be drafting in every single league in 2022, in every single league in 2023. I mean, he is going to be one of our top targets on the board, even if we have to pay a slightly better price than this. I'm sorry, a slightly higher price than this, given the fact that Kyle Pitts should have that development. He should have that time in the NFL. So he's ready to ball out in his sophomore season. So he's ready to ball out in his junior year. But anyone spending a 5th round pick on him in a redraft league in 2021, anyone taking him significantly higher than TJ Hawkinson, Noah Fant, you are making a mistake. I promise you that. And I very rarely come out and say something with conviction. And it's scary to say this with Kyle Pitts because he's a player that has all the hype in the world. And I know I'm going to get a lot of hate on this. And if Kyle Pitts has a great rookie season, I mean, it's going to be a rough offseason for me next year. I will tell you that. But nonetheless, I mean, he has to be an extreme outlier just to reach this ADP. Okay, so now let's go over and let's talk about one more player. Let's talk about Michael Pittman, a guy that I really didn't know if we were going to be high on or if we were going to be lower on compared to consensus going into the offseason, because I thought that Michael Pittman was a very hard player to project what the dynasty community was going to do with him. And I'm sorry, not the dynasty community, just the regular fantasy football community, in that Michael Pittman had a very disappointing rookie season, but he was playing alongside Phillip Rivers, a quarterback that doesn't necessarily just scream above average production. So with Michael Pittman Jr., this is a guy that now is going over from Phillip Rivers to Carson Wentz, and this is something that I want to talk about. I understand that Carson Wentz reuniting with this coach is going to have a high ceiling. I understand what Carson Wentz can turn into. But we also have to acknowledge the fact that Carson Wentz, I mean, the Indianapolis Colts, if they are not going to make the playoffs, they are incentivized to actually bench Carson Wentz. If you look at what the trade details were, where, hey, maybe you're not going to make the playoffs. Maybe you go, hey, we probably shouldn't be trading a 1st round pick for Carson Wentz. We should probably make sure he's not playing all of these games. So please, guys, understand here that Michael Pittman Jr., I mean, he is not getting an automatic upgrade at quarterback. It's very hard to say that's an automatic upgrade from Phillip Rivers to Michael Pittman Jr. So I don't understand the price. I would much prefer having a player like Paris Campbell at a cheaper price. So please be avoiding Michael Pittman Jr. here with the 104th overall pick. And I think instead maybe draft Paris Campbell at a discount. Now, thank you guys. I really hope y'all enjoyed the video. Of course, if y'all did, go down there, drop a like, leave a comment, subscribe to the channel. It helps us out a ton, and I will see y'all with the video tomorrow. Thank you so much for everyone supporting the show on Patreon. And Dominic, Jim, Carl, Jesse, Tyler, Eric, Colby, Cameron, Mike, and Marcus, thank you guys.